Hey horror fans, welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into the twisted, bloody world of one of the most iconic horror franchises ever, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. From the original 1974 classic to the latest 2022 sequel, we're breaking down the entire franchise in chronological order. We're going to explore every sequel, prequel, and reboot, including the bizarre twists and turns the story has taken over the years. So buckle up, because this ride through rural Texas is going to get wild. Let's start with the film that began it all, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. Directed by Tobe Hooper, this gritty, low-budget masterpiece introduced us to Leatherface and the Sawyer family. The plot is simple yet terrifying. A group of friends traveling through rural Texas stumbles upon a nightmare when they encounter a family of cannibals led by the chainsaw-wielding Leatherface. The film's documentary-style realism, coupled with its disturbing imagery, has cemented it as one of the greatest horror films of all time. Fast forward 13 years to The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, 1986. Directed again by Tobe Hooper, this sequel takes the series in a surprisingly different direction. The tone is darker yet infused with black comedy. The story follows a radio DJ who becomes entangled with the Sawyer family, while a former Texas Ranger, played by Dennis Hopper, seeks revenge for the events of the first film. This sequel expands the family's backstory and ups the ante with more graphic violence and a satirical edge. Then came Leatherface, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 in 1990, which aimed to return the franchise to its darker roots. Directed by Jeff Burr, this film introduces new members of the Sawyer family and follows a couple who become the next victims after getting lost on their way to California. It's grittier than the second film, with Leatherface portrayed as a more menacing figure. Despite production issues and censorship battles, it's a solid entry that sought to revive the fear factor of the original. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, 1994, is where things get really strange. Directed by Kim Henkel, one of the writers of the original, this film serves as both a sequel and a soft reboot. It stars a young Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey as part of a group of teens who run afoul of Leatherface and his family after a prom night gone wrong. The movie introduces a bizarre subplot involving a secret society that manipulates the Sawyer family's actions, making it one of the most surreal entries in the franchise. While often criticized, it's an interesting departure from the traditional narrative. In 2003, the franchise was rebooted with The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, directed by Marcus Nispel. This remake of the 1974 original updates the story for a new generation, introducing more gore, intensity, and a deeper exploration of Leatherface's backstory. The plot follows a group of friends traveling to a Lynyrd Skynyrd concert who encounter Leatherface and his reimagined family, now known as the Hewitts. The film was a commercial success and brought Leatherface back into the spotlight. 3 years later, we got the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning, 2006, directed by Jonathan Liebesman. This prequel to the 2003 remake explores the origins of Leatherface and the Hewitt family. Set in 1969, it follows two brothers and their girlfriends who run afoul of the family while on their way to enlist in the Vietnam War. The film provides a grim backstory, detailing how Leatherface became the monster we know and solidifying the family's role as the true villains. Next up is Texas Chainsaw 3D, 2013, a direct sequel to the original 1974 film. This movie ignores all previous sequels, positioning itself as a continuation of the original story. It picks up immediately after the events of the first film, with the town sheriff leading a vigilante group to burn down the Sawyer home. Decades later, a young woman named Heather discovers she's the heir to the Sawyer estate, only to learn that Leatherface is still alive and her cousin. The film modernizes the story, while paying homage to the classic, though it received mixed reviews for its plot inconsistencies. In 2017, we got Leatherface, another prequel, but this time it's a prequel to the original 1974 film and Texas Chainsaw 3D. Directed by Alexandre Bustillo and Julian Maury, the film explores the early years of Leatherface, showing his transformation from a troubled youth named Jedediah Sawyer to the infamous chainsaw-wielding killer. The story follows a group of teens who escape from a mental institution, with one of them destined to become Leatherface. This film delves deep into the psychological trauma that shapes Leatherface, offering a more character-driven take on the horror icon. And finally, we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 2022, a direct sequel to the 1974 classic that ignores all other entries, including Texas Chainsaw 3D and Leatherface, 2017. Directed by David Blue Garcia, this installment is set nearly 50 years after the original Massacre and follows a group of young entrepreneurs who travel to a remote Texas town to start a business. Unbeknownst to them, Leatherface has been hiding out in the town and is ready to resume his killing spree. The film also brings back Sally Hardesty, the lone survivor of the first film, now seeking revenge against Leatherface. This entry attempts to bring the franchise full circle, blending nostalgia with modern horror sensibilities. And that's the complete Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, broken down in chronological order. From the gritty original to the latest revival, this series has given us some of the most intense and memorable moments in horror history. Whether you love the classic 1974 film or prefer the modern reboots, there's something in this franchise for every horror fan. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more deep dives into horror franchises, and let me know in the comments which Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie is your favorite. Thanks for watching, and remember, you never know what's lurking in the woods.